Perhaps this is not such a wise decision.
Seemed wise enough when you took half my pin money to escort me here.
When it comes to Bridgerton, every season brings its own mix of romance, drama, and scandal, but Season 4 already looks like it could deliver some of the show's biggest and most emotional moments yet. The storylines are getting more layered, the characters are evolving in surprising ways, and the writers seem determined to keep us hooked. So, let's count down the top 5 things Season 4 really needs to focus on, or at least the moments that could define this chapter. Because if the past 3 seasons have taught us anything, it's that the right blend of personal struggles, cultural depth, and emotional payoffs is what makes Bridgerton shine. 5. Flashbacks of Sophie's childhood. One of the most exciting things that Season 4 can offer is a deeper dive into Sophie Beck's early life. In Julia Quinn's novel, An Offer from a Gentleman, Sophie often reflects on her childhood before Araminta, her cruel stepmother, entered the picture. But reflections on a page are very different from visual storytelling on screen. If the show takes those fleeting thoughts and expands them into proper flashbacks, it could give viewers a whole new level of connection to Sophie. Flashbacks have already been used effectively in the show. In Season 1, Episode 2, Shock and Delight, we saw Simon Bassett's painful upbringing and how it shaped his refusal to have children. Then in Season 2, A Bee in Your Bonnet, Anthony's memories of his father's sudden death explained why he felt pressured into marrying Edwina despite loving Kate. So, the series has already proven that flashbacks work brilliantly when it comes to fleshing out characters' motivations. If Season 4 uses this technique for Sophie, it can highlight her resilience and her determination to rise above her circumstances. Because Sophie is more than just a love interest for Benedict, she's someone who fought for her dignity in a world that constantly tried to take it away. Showing moments from her childhood would also make her refusal to be Benedict's mistress even more powerful, since it would underline how hard she has worked to build self-respect. And although it's a small detail, weaving Sophie's memories into the narrative would bring a richer texture to her romance with Benedict. It would stop their story from being just a Cinderella retelling and turn it into something uniquely Bridgerton, deep, emotional, and completely unforgettable. 4. Bringing in Sophie's Korean heritage. Another huge opportunity lies in fully embracing Sophie Beck's Korean background. When Simone Ashley was cast as Kate Sharma in Season 2, the show smartly adapted Kate's characters from the books to reflect her Indian heritage. It wasn't just surface-level representation either. The series included cultural elements like the haldi ceremony before the wedding, and even incorporated small but meaningful language choices, with Kate and Edwina referring to their father as Appa and to each other as Didi and Bon. Although not every detail was perfect, those choices enriched Kate's character and gave audiences a version of her that felt more layered than the original Kate Sheffield. With Yaren Ha now playing Sophie, the same kind of authentic storytelling can happen again. In fact, it's worth noting that showrunner Jess Brownell even let Ha choose Sophie's new last name, Beck, which shows how intentional the team is about making her identity matter. So Season 4 has a chance to show how Sophie's Korean heritage influences her character arc. It could bring in cultural details that deepen her struggles and her triumphs, while also making her stand out in a setting dominated by rigid class divisions. It's not just about diversity for the sake of it, it's about adding authentic depth. And since Bridgerton is already known for weaving modern inclusivity into its historical setting, ignoring Sophie's cultural roots would feel like a missed opportunity. If Season 4 really leans into this, Sophie's story could mirror Kate's in the sense that both women were enriched, not erased, by their heritage. That way, Sophie Beck isn't just a stand-in for the Cinderella figure, she becomes someone whose cultural identity shapes her strength, resilience, and love story. 3. Making Posy Lee a permanent part of the Bridgerton family. Moving on, let's talk about Posy Lee, one of the most underrated but potentially crucial characters coming in Season 4. In the novel, Posy, Araminta's younger daughter, eventually breaks away from her domineering mother. By the end of An Offer from a Gentleman, she decides to leave her toxic family behind and finds a new home with the Bridgertons after Violet invites her to stay. But here's the problem. In the books, Posy basically disappears after that point. Aside from one small mention in a later epilogue, she doesn't return. That feels like a wasted opportunity, because her transition from her birth family to her found family with the Bridgertons could offer so much storytelling potential. On the show, Isabella Way is playing Posy, and keeping her around beyond Season 4 could add another layer of warmth and complexity to the Bridgerton household. Imagine how meaningful it would be to see Violet essentially adopt Posy and treat her like one of her own daughters. It wouldn't just contrast Posy's new life with her old one, it would highlight the theme of chosen family, something Bridgerton has always quietly championed. Because if the show writes Posy out too quickly, it risks flattening her arc into a side note, when it could instead become one of the most heartwarming aspects of the season. And given how much fans love characters who grow beyond their circumstances, keeping Posy around feels like the kind of move that could make audiences fall in love with her. 2. Setting up Eloise's future story. Now let's move to Eloise, who has always been one of the most fascinating Bridgerton siblings because of her independence and sharp wit. If the series sticks to the order of Quinn's novels, Season 5 will focus on her romance in To Sir Philip with Love. That means Season 4 should start laying the groundwork for it. But here's where things get tricky. In the books, Eloise begins corresponding with Philip after his wife Marina dies. The issue is that the show already reworked Marina's story, making her a Featherington instead of a Bridgerton cousin. That change has now created a narrative gap, because it makes little sense for Eloise to send condolences to the widow of her best friend's cousin, especially one who hasn't been seen since Season 2. So the writers are in a bit of a corner. If they try to bring Philip back without properly re-establishing his connection, it could feel forced. And if they don't, Eloise's story risks losing the depth it had in the books. Although it's possible that Season 4 won't address Philip at all, the smart move would be to at least hint at Eloise's future, maybe by having her start corresponding with someone or revisiting her growing friendship with Theo. It might still be a long wait before we finally see it all on screen, but one thing's certain, these 5 moments could turn Season 4 into the most powerful season yet. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments.